Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Apex Racing TV, and welcome back to the Operation eMotorsports Racing League. This is round number 4 of the season, coming to you tonight from Laguna Seca. My name is Ron Mullins. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Matthew Duffin, and in the virtual production hauler, we have Lee Thompson. Matthew, right off the bat at the top of this show, as I said some 15 minutes ago at this point, I would first like to congratulate you on the birth of your first kid a couple of weeks ago, and also welcome you back to this series after a brief hiatus. It's been a really fun ride up to this point. We've seen some drivers show a heck of a lot of pace at some fantastic old school American racetracks. We're heading to another great one here, Laguna Seca, storied in nature and really good for some racing action as well. So I have a feeling heading into this 45-minute race that we're in for a good one.
Yeah, it's going to provide to be some great drama tonight, that is for sure. Laguna Seca, one of America's classic circuits, really is a brilliant track to be a part of, and great to be here. And thank you for the kind words at the top of the programme there. Really do appreciate that one. Mum and baby are doing well, so that's great news. But yeah, Laguna Seca, 1996, this track opened. What a track to be at here for this 4th round of the championship. Daytona's come and gone, Road Atlanta's come and gone, and Indianapolis have come and gone, and we just keep hitting some fantastic circuits with Laguna Seca next up on our calendar. It's qualifying at the moment, 10 minutes for the first set of drivers to go out there and complete their laps.
And these drivers all having to deal with each other at their on the racetrack. Unlike some previous seasons here from the Operation Motorsport Series where they have been split up by class, not the case with this season. All of the drivers set to take the green flag in the not too far off future are on the track right now and all trying to get the best times that they possibly can. We'll note that from the practice session earlier on, Corby all in the number 8 car. He was your quickest driver, setting a 1:21.510. That's a pretty good lap time for him. Ty Schuring, who we're following right now, though, in the number 46 car, wasn't terribly far off as he jumps up to the provisional pole in the very early stages of this qualifying session. Just getting the first times on the board right now, but looking like Kobiol and Ty Schuring are going to be the ones to compete with. Ken Copeland, who's off the back of 2 straight wins in the pro category thus far this season, he was slotted as the 4th quickest driver in that practice session earlier on. So let's see if the driver, the number 15 Wrong Stuff car, will be able to show a little bit of that smoke that we've seen from the previous 2 races.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see what will happen in this qualifying session. Like you say, the 4 different categories here: the open class, the pro class, the beneficiary class, and the Pro Beneficiary class as well, leading you off around this circuit. Only one Pro Beneficiary driver out there at the moment, so he'll be obviously pole position, race winner in that category. But what can he do in terms of mixing this grid? This is what makes this series so exciting. 4 different categories out there on the track, and it provides some great entertainment with all of them racing not for overall points but for points per category. And that's what makes this competition so well worth the watch. As Copeland goes provisional pole at the moment with a 1:21.871 in that pro category, and that is, I believe, the fastest lap overall by a driver out there. And he is some 3.5 tenths quicker than Shearing in that second place at the moment. And you was on about Colby Hull there, a driver who I was told was very dominant last season. He was very dominant back at Daytona, but obviously hasn't had it his own way the previous 2 rounds. He's got to bounce back if he's to try and defend that championship title.
But if any driver is going to do it, it's going to be a driver with the talent of Corby. What you heard about last season, Matthew, is absolutely correct in the GT3 category. During the last season, where we were running LMP2s and GT3s, he was an absolutely indomitable force all throughout this season. I believe he had a complete clean sweep of the 10-race calendar that we had back towards the end of 2024, and certainly showing that he has got the pace to compete this season as well. Already has 1 win, that coming at the very start of this season at Daytona. Corby looking to try and hit the ground running from this season, where he's feeling a bit more pressure than he has in seasons past. But as we're about halfway through this qualifying session, I think we should probably talk a little bit about all of the work that goes on behind the scenes to make this series possible. And to start off, we got to talk about Operation Motorsports, which is a veteran-led and operated 501c3 nonprofit foundation based in Raleigh, North Carolina and Bryan, Ontario, Canada, serving American and Canadian service members and veterans. Operation Motorsports is based on 3 core values: team, identity, and purpose, and supports the recovery of medically retiring or retired service members affected by military service through motorsports opportunities. Operation Motorsports' motto is 1 at a time, so if you ever see hashtag 1 at a time, now you know that behind that hashtag is a wonderful cause supporting veterans. Veteran recovery opportunities utilizing motorsports opportunities, veteran recovery opportunities that instill a sense of team, identity, and purpose, veteran recovery opportunities through the lens of diversionary therapy, motorsports immersion, and academy programs, veteran recovery through motorsports 1 at a time. Visit operationmotorsports.org to learn more. And for Season 10 of the Operation Motorsports eMotorsports iRacing League, we are beyond excited to kick off another incredible year of racing action and kick off this season. We've got something very special lined up for Season 10. As new for 2025, we are proud to announce that Operation Motorsports beneficiaries racing in the Pro Ben or Ben categories now have access to virtual coaching using Trophy.ai services. This partnership is designed to help these incredible competitors refine their skills and become even more competitive on the racetrack, all while boosting their confidence of it at the same time. This initiative supports the eMotorsports diversionary therapy program, which includes creating a thriving, supportive community for medically released service members, medically retired service members, and veterans with a service-connected disability as recognized by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs or the Veteran Affairs of Canada. It's a space where participants ranging from active duty to veterans can come together, train, and race in an inclusive virtual environment. This season, we have 15 Operation Motorsports beneficiaries competing, and we couldn't be prouder to have them on the grid. Let's show them some love as they continue to break barriers and redefine what's possible in the world of motorsports. And we'd also like to thank CrowdStrike and Michelin for their continued support of Operation Motorsports. But Matthew, in the final few moments of this qualifying session, a tick over 2 minutes left to go. Still looking good for Corby in the GT3 Pro category. Looking very good for Gregory Meismer in the Pro Ben, since he's the only Pro Ben competitor here today. Tyler Manning holding on to your current provisional pole in Open GT3. And Ian Carney, who's been dominant thus far this season with 3 wins on the trot in 3 races, looking to continue on that form in the Ben GT3 class.
Yeah, indeed it is. It's going to be an interesting watch in the open class at the moment. It's just gone to half a second between Manning and Shelton. It was just under half a tenth of a second in that open category, so that's now been extended in the open class to half a second. Bit of a bigger gap there, and if we drop down into that beneficiary the Ben class, you see Carney then just been dominant all season. He's got some 3/10 over that of McDade at the moment in P2. He's in the pits as well, so he's not going to improve with the little time that's left on the clock. He might just be able to scrape a lap, but I doubt it from where he is at the moment. But it's All who's currently now 4 tenths in that lead of the pro category overall, Shearing in the pit lane as well, so that's going to do him no favours at the moment. And what a championship to be a part of, to see them help some veterans and everything quite a bit in terms of getting into racing and keeping that great community spirit and everything else. It's a fantastic thing to be a part of here at Operation Motorsport. Then this is Luis Rios coming down towards the start line in that Ford Mustang. Across the line he goes, currently 4th in the beneficiary class and stays P4 overall at the moment. He's got a bit of work to do if he's to close that gap. He's currently 1.1 off of provisional pole in category.
And as we are following Luis Rios in that number 10 car, he is tonight's beneficiary spotlight here from the Operation Motorsports Racing League, a resident of Simpsonville, South Carolina, and a member of the U.S. Army. He was born and raised in Miami, Florida, and ever since then, Luis has been intrigued by motorsports. He was raised by his parents and grandmother, who immigrated to this country from Peru and Honduras. One of 4 boys, Luis followed in his uncle's steps and joined the U.S. military. However, Luis chose the Army instead of the U.S. Air Force, as his uncle did. A husband and father, Luis enjoys motorsports, and in 2023 found his way onto sim racing. He's very excited to be a part of this veteran-based sim racing community and is looking forward to future events. Luis Rios has already been a good driver to follow all throughout, not just this season, but this race as well. Despite that off-track excursion we just saw him go through the corkscrew a couple of moments ago, slotted in 4th at the moment in the Ben GT3 category, so looking pretty all right for him. I will mention another veteran that we've got joining us for the first time this season, a veteran of not just the U.S. military, but a veteran of these broadcasts this season. Our old pal Charles Bichelle out there on the racetrack as it stands at the present moment, trying out some brand new pedals that he got a couple of weeks ago. He was meant to be on track for the Indianapolis round not terribly long ago from this season. However, his brake pedal decided to go kaput at the worst possible time, so it has delayed his entrance into this series. He's running in a Corvette, much like Jonathan LeBay, who we're following right now in the 147 car. He is your 7th place qualifier at the moment in Pro GT3, as Ken Copeland has shuffled up to the pole in that wrong stuff Ferrari, saying a 1-minute 21.376. That's a really good lap time for him. Not a lot of time between himself and Kobiol, but Copeland doing everything he needed to grab the pole.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you need to do. He's left it at the right time as well. He's gave Kobiol no time to improve in this qualifying session. 400ths of a second, like you say. We're on with Jonathan LeBay here, who comes through the corkscrew down the in the Corvette here. Lovely looking car, nice livery on that one as he comes towards the final couple of corners. Been a pretty tidy lap here from Jonathan in the 147 machine, and he's got the final corner to try and master. Very tricky corner to get right, very easy to lose that rear with 2 little tracks out the corner. Missed the apex just a little bit. That would have cost him a bit of time there as he comes towards the line, down in 7th place in that pro category. Crosses the line now and stays in that 7th place, so will not improve on his lap time there. Just looking at the time screen at the minute, there is only 1 car, I believe, left out on track. Nope, they're all done. He's returned to the pit lane. So that then is your qualifying over. The 4 categories have completed their lap times, and it is Kevin Copeland then who was the fastest man out on track to take them away in P1. 121.376 for Kevin Copeland. Corby Ull P2 with Ty Shearing in P3. Greg Meismer, the only Pro Ben driver in this category, he's P4 overall, with the open category Tyler Manning P5. That is then McLean, I'm struggling to see that, McLaughlin, sorry, in P6 overall, from then Gene Kelly, and then Nolan Uke P8.
And completing your...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry to step on your toes there, Matthew. Completing your top 10, we're going to see Kyle Shelton starting this race in 9th in the number 12 car, and Tyler Beeman running at your top 10. Ian Carney, who's been dominant thus far this season in the Ben GT3 class, going to be starting this race in 11th. Next to Ryan Silione in 12th. Starting this race in lucky number P13 is going to be Jacob Little. Jason Taylor going to join him on that 7th row. We have Dustin Wells starting this race in 15th, and Brandon Potts starting in 16th.
Peter McDade, 17th place, with Brandon Leonard in 18th place. Jonathan LeBay down in 19th with 20th for Tyler Reid. 21st for Luis Rios, then in 22nd place will be Bryce Fortuné in that rounding out 22nd place. 23rd for Chandler Baker, and then 24th for Rui Farina.
And starting this race in 25th is going to be Richard Davenport in the number 17 car. Tanner Masters going to join him on that 13th row. We got John Hicks starting in 27th next to Dave Bell in 28th. Charles Bachar, our old pal, going to be starting this race in 29th in the number 21 Olympus esports car. Next to Christopher Pogles in that number 42 car. Starting this race in 31st will be Anthony Calvi. Raymond Hanneman will start this race in 32nd. And running at your 33 car grid set to take the green flag in a couple of minutes time is going to be Billy All. 33 cars set to tackle this 11 turn 2.25 mile racetrack here, Matthew. I absolutely love Laguna Seca. Whenever you think of this track, you think of the corkscrew. It is a wonderful ride in the world of motorsports, but also an old school one as well.
Yeah.
Not a lot of asphalt runoff area here, so rather unforgiving circuit.
That's kind of what I like about a race circuit, unforgivingness. You know, we don't want to see these drivers taking the limits, running wide, trying to just extend their runs through the corners. This track will punish you if you try and push them limits a little bit. You can kind of get away with it as you come down into 1 and 2 here. Look, you can kind of see that it does turn into concrete on that outside line, but then as you come through, it is just gravel, sand, dirt, just wherever you look. There is no place, no margin for error around this circuit. And like you say, old school type circuit. And that's, I think, what really gives Laguna Seca a great feel about it. If you was to put this as tarmac around the outside instead of all the gravel, I think Laguna Seca would become a bit of a dull race circuit. Because of that old school vibe, it really makes it interesting for these drivers.
I gotta say, they did somewhat of a halfway compromise not terribly long ago. They put some asphalt shoulders around here, but not just massive, expansive asphalt runoff area that you'd see at a track like Paul Ricard, for instance, because that would just be unfortunate for a track like this. Would it be probably fulfilling some safety regulations to bring Formula One here? Yes, it kind of would, but they tried bringing Formula One here many, many moons ago, back in the late 80s. What is now turns number 3 and 4 was added onto the circuit. The Andretti hairpin used to just be a quick left-handed flick, and there was a flat-out blast between what's now turn number 2 and turn number 5. So they added in that small little section to bring Formula One back here. Bring Formula One here in the first place. Did not work out for them many, many moons ago, but what we're left with is a great track, which is going to be hosting a great race here tonight, Matthew.
Yeah, it's going to play host to an absolute blinder. You can bet your bottom dollar on that one. I think we're in for a classic here tonight, Ron. I think this is going to be a really good race, really exciting to see. The bonus is, the interesting thing is going to be these opening couple of laps. While the pack is still bunched up together here, this is where it's going to get down to the interesting points of this race. Because drivers are going to try and just lean on each other a little bit, maybe just run each other out of room to make the overtake complete. But either way, we're around the final corner and we're getting ready to go.
Yeah, let's get things up and rolling from the 4th race of this season. That pace car making the turn to come down pit lane. The green flag is at, and the drivers are on their way. Pretty even kill start with both of our front row sitters, Ken Copeland and Corby. Going to have a drag race heading down the hill into the Andretti hairpin at turn number 2. At the very beginning of this race, some 3-wide, 4-wide action a little bit farther in the back. These drivers realizing that as this field is still packed together like sardines, we want to get these moves done and strike while the iron is still hot. Ken Copeland getting that move done and off track moment a little bit farther in the back. That's Brandon Leonard in the number 7 Acura trying to rejoin the racetrack as best as he can on the inside of Luis Rios and Rui Farina heading through turn number 3, but at the front of the field it's Ken Copeland leading it at the very early stage. Kobiol slotted into P2. Ty Schuring running P3 of the pro drivers, P4 overall, as currently running P3 overall is your current open leader of Tyler Manning. Pretty good start for a lot of drivers up and down this grid, and some drivers already making some moves up a little bit farther in the back. Bryce Fontaine, class in 17th, up 5 spots already.
Yeah, he's up 5 spots already, and this has been an interesting start. You've just seen a few of the drivers drop a couple of wheels onto that gravel there. You see through the corkscrew, look, another driver just cutting the apex of the corner, putting a couple of wheels onto that dirt. That's going to cost him a bit of time. And on the exit of the corkscrew, and it's a valuable corner to get an exit out of. And you've seen a couple of drivers here side by side. Here's Tyler Beeman up the inside of the Porsche in the big Ford Mustang. You just see the traction as he puts the power down too quick coming out the final corner. Now he's lost all that momentum down this long start straight before you come down towards turn 1. You've got this little kink left here, flat out through there. He gets in the slipstream of the car in front, manages to fend off the green Mustang, and now there's another giant Ford Mustang attacking the rear. just behind. It's all action here with all these Ford Mustangs on the grid. But already interesting moves coming through this pack. A bit of drama going off back in the rear end of the field. Tyler Reid looking to the outside then of what I believe is the Acura just ahead of him, who has a little moment there. You've just seen a few drivers as if the track's almost still a little slippy in places. Drivers just not able to get the power down, and that there, Ron, is what we're talking about. That dirt being kicked up, that is where the driver's just trying to push through the corner a little too quick, dropping a wheel into that dirt. It's just going to cost them some time.
Yeah, that's another thing to raise, of course, with the brand new reworked off-track physics, bringing gravel and dirt and stones and everything onto these racetracks. It's not ideal at all come time for the end of this race. Ryan Cilione going way too deep into the corkscrew, gonna get his doors blown off by the pack ensuing right behind. He got 4 moves put on him, 5 moves put on him. Look at Jacob Little coming in for the last second move in the number 74 Mustang. Lots of Mustangs running in that small little pack as Gregory Meisner just went off the track, hanging into the second to last corner. That's your Pro Ben runner in the number 75 car going off the track. He's not alone, though, as that's Tanner Masters going off the track as well. Turn number 10 really being a trouble spot for these racers. Don't usually see it being the case, but multiple drivers going off in the same corner in the span of, 10 seconds?
Yeah, pretty unusual there, especially at that type of corner. It's not one that you're really going to get wrong unless you're getting the entry completely wrong. And look at this Acura going straight back up the inside of the Audi. Bang, there I am as the Audi turns into turn 1 then, and they're still together side by side. The Audi just drops over the curb there, loses that place back to Tanner Masters then. So the Acura trying to fight his way through the field back towards the front. Kyle Shelton in the green Ford Mustang on the outside line. This is where you could just run your opponent out of a bit of room, and I tell you what, great move from the number 83 there. That was a heck of an overtake to not make sure contact was made or drivers was pushed off the track. But up the hill they come towards the corkscrew. This Ford Mustang, I tell you what, I don't know how it was going to go around Laguna Seca today, but there's a lot of them out there, so we're going to find out how it will handle this Laguna Seca circuit down through the corkscrew. Very tricky part to get right of this track, but what a famous corner, right up there in the world with being one of the most famous corners out there in world motorsport. Copeland out front though, he's got that 1 second gap to all at the moment, so he's doing pretty well. And as Ron was just mentioning, you can just see that gravel being kicked up through these corners, and this is really going to make it interesting for these drivers. And when one bit of gravel gets kicked up, more gets added to the circuit, and that's just going to play havoc at the end.
Yeah, it snowballs out of control. You have one driver go off the track carrying a bit too much speed through one of the corners around this track. They bring some gravel on, then the next driver hits that. They're going to go in there a little bit too quick, hit that gravel. It's going to feel like they landed belly first on a slip and slide. Slide off the track, bring more gravel on, and that just snowballs out of control from there. Laguna Seca, it's an old school track. We mentioned this right before we grabbed the green. You got a lot of gravel. It may look like gravel. That is just grass, just dead grass in the California sun during the summer, but it's still dirt nevertheless being brought onto the track. There are 2 things that you want, well, 3 things that you want on a racetrack. Some nice asphalt, some nice looking race cars, and some very quick drivers as side-by-side racing heading down into turn number 5. That's Luis Rios going side-by-side with Brandon Leonard, that number 7 TFG Racing Acura. They went off the track hanging out of turn number 2 at the very start of this race, still trying to get their bearings straight. They're running in the final spot inside the top 10 in Open GT3 as we take a look at the driver running right in front of them, saying right in front of them, about 2 seconds farther up the road, with Tyler Reid in the number 47 Operation Motorsports car, one of the series admins, currently locked steady in a very close fight heading through the final few corners with themselves and Gregory Meisner. Meisner not getting off to a good start, down 14 spots from where he started in this race in that number 75 Porsche, but very lucky for him the fact that his usual Pro Ben rival of Tyler Gilmet is not here, as we just saw banging doors going on to that start finish straightaway.
Yeah, indeed we did, and it's Meisner who's got a run on the Corvette, coming up and over the brow of the hill down towards turn 1, the first braking zone on the circuit, and that Porsche of Greg Meisner up the inside, and a nice little move. You just saw the Corvette drift out wide out the final corner, and again dropping that wheel on the dirt. Look how much momentum that cost him, because the Porsche, not the quickest in a straight line, but it managed to get alongside the Corvette and ahead, and there is a bit of a train forming behind these two at the moment, as this is the overall, that is the battle for this couple of places here. You can just see 2.25 seconds from this very front car to Brandon Leonard down the pack in 10th in category at the moment, but that Corvette looks a little twitchy coming through the corners there of that of Jonathan Leby, as they come towards the corkscrew for the 5th time of asking in this 45-minute race. That Corvette definitely struggling out there, Ron, because he's dropped off the back of the Porsche. Every corner he's gone through at the moment, he just seems to have a little twitch mid-corner and on-corner exit, and I think that's unsettling this Corvette just ever so slightly.
I'm going to say something that may be mildly controversial, and it pains me to say this as a GM guy. Oh, as we see going off the track through the second to last corner, that's Bryce Fontaine in the Eternal Racing number 3 Mercedes going off the track, heading through the final few turns, bringing more gravel onto the track as well. I swear that flat out blast. Oh, there's more drivers going off the circuit. That right there, unless I'm very much mistaken, was a BMW of Richard Davenport that just went off the circuit coming out of the last corner. It was either Davenport or Nolan Uke. Not 100% sure. I believe it was Davenport, though, but still coming out of the final corner, bringing more gravel onto the track. But getting back to the point that I was going to mention, it pains me to say this as a GM guy whose daily driver car is a 1985 Oldsmobile. That Corvette is a dog of a GT3 car. It does not handle very well. It doesn't have that American muscle to pull its weight down the straight line. It's just mediocre at best. That's so painful for me to say as a guy who as a kid grew up cheering on the Corvettes in IMSA and the World Endurance Championship. That new Corvette GT3 car, at least in the world of iRacing, just does not get the job done better than some of these other cars.
I'll have to take your word for it because I've never driven it on iRacing, so I'll have to take your word for it on that one then, and that's why I'm a big Honda fan. So go the Acura in this race this season. Honda, it's pretty much the same as another driver again, same corner. This corner's catching a few drivers out tonight. The penultimate corner here at Laguna Seca, it really is just throwing a spanner in the works. It's down the start straight now. Look, the Ford Mustang of Kyle Shelton. It gained a place coming up through the curb towards the corkscrew as the black Porsche was off track. Now he's side by side down into that first braking zone once again, and Kyle Shelton on the outside has to be wary of the purple Ford Mustang just tucking underneath as the Porsche hops over that sausage curve there, retakes its position after it made a mistake coming up the hill. And nice move done there from the Porsche. And again, chaos behind. What has happened here? There's this driver spun, and that is Jonathan Leby, who the Corvette, difficult to handle, and it hasn't got through the first couple of corners here without facing the wrong way. And then, bit of an unsafe rejoin. This is what happened to Leby then. So up and over the crest of the hill, all on his own, hits the brakes now. And okay. I'm sure you said the Corvette handles bad. I didn't realise it was that bad.
Yeah, and that's a big off-track moment for Greg Meismer coming out of turn number 6. He just knocked the crap out of the tire barrier coming out of there onto the rail straight away. That's Meismer. That car's still moving. I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't even look like there's a paint chip on that car. Is this CFG Racing number 75 Porsche made out of tungsten? What in the world? Look at that. Near some bump drafting heading down into rainy curve of turn number 9. Not sure what these drivers are thinking in terms of bump drafting. That, I think, was Luis Rios and Bryce Fontaine heading down into that corner. Meismer making that early call to come into the pits. Thankfully for me, he found himself in the fuel window, so not a lot of harm or foul done there as we go back to the front of this pack that we saw him involved in and find Luis Rios and the number 3 of Fontaine side by side heading up the hill. Fontaine in that Mercedes going to get that move done to slip his way up another spot. Rios, your current 4th place runner in the Ben GT3 category. But I will say, on the subject of the Corvette handling, I was actually talking with Mr. Charles Michel, who is campaigning the Corvette in this series, about the rather ill-handling way that car likes to drive around. It's tough, and I gotta say, for my entire time covering GT3 racing, this new roster of GT3 cars, I have rarely, if ever, seen a performance from a Corvette that has really stuck out to me as a good one. So I don't know what it is. You'd think, okay, yeah, a low-slung muscle car with a nice bit of power to it, it's going to be a good car. It just isn't. It's like wow, okay, I will hold off on that point, as that, yeah. I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, is Ryan Silione, the number 77 car, puffing up the smoke with a blown motor. Yeah.
That's not what you need. That's not what you need around this track. He's going to have to pull that into the pit lane straight away, and indeed he does. And I tell you what, I've just noticed in there on what you were saying about that about the Corvette a moment ago. There is a lot of drivers making a lot of mistakes. There's not a lot of normal overtakes happening out on this circuit. It is all down to drivers making errors and the car behind getting the run. That is key around here. This consistency is going to play in some of these drivers' hands, and if you're the more consistent driver, you could be in for a lot of places here. As we're watching Bryce down in towards turn number 2, and he's managing to fend off this Ford Mustang at the moment in the Mercedes AMG GT3, one of very few Mercedes AMGs out there on this circuit this afternoon, and an interesting one to see him fend off that Ford Mustang. Look at the size of the Mustang compared to every other car on this grid. It's just huge. It's like a tank coming through the field, but at the moment it's not looking too bad. Bryson coming up through the corner. I tell you what, Ron, this corner here, the blind apex entry into this bend now, such a tricky corner to get right, and if you can get it right, you get a good run up to the corkscrew, but it's very easy to make a mistake.
You are running on such a fine line heading through that section, regardless of what kind of car you're running around. You mentioned how you're blind heading into there. You're going under a bridge. You got the inside barriers kind of blocking off any sort of good line of sight heading into the corner. Turn 6 as well with that lethal. With that lethal red sausage curb on the inside. The amount of times that I've been running a race around here, I hit that, nearly popped myself up into low Earth orbit, and by the time I landed back down, I was about 2 feet away from the outside tire barrier. It's not a good run through there at all. You are running on such a razor-thin edge through there. If you overstep it a little bit, you're going to find yourself in for a world of trouble, as what in the world has happened with Tyler Beeman. That's a big crash. His number 83 involved in that as well. What in the world have we just witnessed? That was Jason Taylor and I think Peter McDade.
Well, we're about to see a replay here. We was looking back from Tyler Beeman on the rear wing, looking at the purple car behind him. Let's have a look then. Coming in towards the left hand. Oh, the Audi's reversed backwards straight into Tyler and then pulls away, catches the other Ford Mustang, who then pounces into the red Porsche, and then he gets pinged into the wall. Well, I'm sure that the stewards will be taking a look at that one. An unsafe rejoin potentially there for the Audi driver, it looks like, as he reverses back onto the track. The Mercedes of Billy Hull now goes wide and wiggles, manages to keep hold of it, and gets back onto the track just up towards turn 6. So drivers making a lot of mistakes. I don't know how the Audi got there in the first place, but that has cost 2 Ford Mustangs a race.
And that was Dave Bell in the number 31 Audi. That was just ugly coming out of turn number 4. Multiple cars getting involved in that drama as well. We saw the main 3, but I believe one of the other cars arriving at the scene of that accident got a piece of that action as well. So really unfortunate stuff for all those drivers seeing that incident, heading out of that corner and really having their chances of doing well in this race taken away with not even 15 minutes on the board. Real tough stuff for them. So we jump back to the live action and follow Dustin Wells in the 115 4-wide motorsports car. He's currently your final podium runner in the Open GT3 category. The Open GT3 driver getting off to some rather good starts as it stands currently. Tyler Manning, your Open GT3 leader, is running 3rd as it stands at the present moment. Jacob Little running a little bit farther up the road to Dustin Wells, about 1.2 seconds separating those two, as it's 18 seconds to go up to your current Open leader of Manning. But Little and Wells may have a battle on their hands in the not too far off future, but if they start to battle, we may end up seeing the car right behind the number 25 of Brandon Potts get involved in all that as well.
And this is what you've got to love about mixed category racing, isn't it? Because not only are you racing, I say not only are you racing, you are racing against your category. That's the championship you're trying to win. You're not winning an overall championship, but you've got the fight of the other drivers around you. When you've got such a bag of talent and a mixed bag of lap times out there and pace out there, you're just looking at Copeland, 2.5 clear of Old. You look then at Manning, who's 18 seconds clear of Little. You go to the Ben category, you've got Carney, who's 15.7 seconds clear of Baker. It is just so interesting because your fights aren't over in this race. As Cal Shelton there, a little lag spike for him as he's looks like it's all okay now. You're not just fighting yourself and your category rivals, you're fighting everybody out on this circuit, and one incident against the driver in another category and that could really hurt your results.
Yeah, when it comes to a race like this, you usually think when it comes to multi-class battling, you just think of like an IMSA race, for instance, where you got the GTPs, you got the LMP2s, you got the GT3s, and the 2 different classes there. No, we got 4 different classes, all of which with the same cars. So that interclass mingling, always good to see that when it comes to races like this. There's other series I cover when you got that sort of interclass dynamic between a leader in one category and a driver running a little bit farther back in another. Creates that nice little dynamic going on. It can be frustrating for some of these drivers for sure, but for us in the broadcast booth, it is a joy to watch and call.
We had it earlier in last year. We had a series that myself and Lee was covering, and it was interesting to see that on a race where we had a reverse top 10 grid, you know, some of the AM drivers mixed in with some of the pro drivers in terms of them being at the front of the grid. It really did spice up the racing action for sure, and that's what this action brings, especially when everybody's in the same car class of the GT3 category here today. Here's Chandler Baker down in car number 23, just bringing it in, and that's what I like about Andretti Hairpin. You kind of clip the first apex, drift it out wide, bring it back into the second apex. You just saw the Mustang try and open that door and have a look on the Porsche, but he was too far back at this time, coming in towards turn number 4 now, and again just dropping a wheel on flat gravel. So easily done around this circuit then. We're on lap 13, we're 17 minutes into this race, nearly on the 18-minute mark of a 45-minute race. And already we've seen plenty of drama, and that was an Acura who I believe, has he gone into the wall? I think he may have done. I don't know if he's held on to that. If he has, that's been absolutely spectacular. But there was an Acura there who has lost a couple of places. I don't think it's that one behind Chandler Baker here. So I believe the Acura has lost a couple of places. I didn't quite see who that was.
And may need to load up a replay to see what happened right towards the mid-sector of this track, heading into turn number 5 and 6. That section, real tough to try and get right. As much as we were talking about turn 6 earlier on, turn 5, nothing to scoff at either. The amount of times I feel like I've understeered heading into that section, that feels a lot more open than it actually is. Real tough heading through that section, especially in cars like this, albeit I'm a bit biased because I'm not really I'm more of an open wheel guy in terms of where my speed lies in iRacing, but GT3 racing always very exciting, as we see Roy Farina in the number 91 4-wide motorsports car, currently classed in 8th in the open GT3 category as they head their way through the Andretti hairpin. I'm actually going to provide the actual year that I was mentioning earlier on, as we see side-by-side racing between these two heading down into turn number 3. That's Roy Farina getting that move done on the number 41 Porsche. It was 1988 in which they added in the Andretti hairpin, and also turns number 3 and 4 that we saw those two drivers battle hard through a couple of moments ago.
Yeah, Farina there just dropped a couple of wheels on the dirt. That's what allowed the Porsche to get alongside. And then, as I said at the top of the programme, it's easy to just ease your competitor out wide a little bit, put him in the gravel. That's what Farina did on the Porsche just behind him at the moment. And as we look towards a fight a little further forward, Jacob Little at the moment, second place in category, coming under pressure from the Porsche of Wells just behind. But not just that, there's also Potts in fourth place in this category, just behind Wells. So a few drivers here all going hammer and tong for this position, second place in the category, worth a few points and a podium to your name in this one. And that is the Acura of Brandon Potts we can see in the background there then, as so far Jacob Little doing a good job in that big Ford Mustang, but the Porsche and Acura sticking with him. There's another Ford Mustang joining this queue in behind as well. I believe that's Reed.
As we're only 2.5 minutes-ish away from the halfway mark of this race, we're going to have to start thinking about pit stop strategy as well, Matthew. The pit stop's a necessity for these drivers in this series. They have to come in at some point, and we've seen races thus far this season get completely flipped on their head as a result of a good or bad run through the pits for these drivers. And with that, it also has to bring up the discussion about the sketchiness of the pit entry and exit around this track. Real easy to pick up those unsafe exit and entry penalties, so the pit stop's going to be super important in this race at Laguna Seca tonight.
Yeah, pit entry's a strange one here at Laguna Seca, as we've seen the Porsche just trying to cut underneath the Ford Mustang a little wide through there, penultimate corner now, and he absolutely nails that one. But the pit entry, you've obviously got the 90-degree left-hander, but it kind of dips as you come in towards the corner through that pit entry there. You can just see where the darker tarmac is on pit entry. It kind of dips a little bit. Easy for the car to just bottom out slightly and just maybe have a little moment. I've seen on many a series before where the driver has lost the rear of the car coming into that pit lane, or maybe just carried a bit too much speed and ended up clipping the pit wall as they've tried to get it slowed down. Either way, pit exit as well. What a crucial pit exit. You can easily make a mistake there. His first driver looks like he's in the pits. That's Tanner Masters.
Tanner Masters in that aggressive salmon, exclamation point. Can't forget that number 72 Acura stopped in his pit stall right now. Corby running P2 at the present moment. He's not terribly far off of Copeland. Let's see if either of these drivers are going to decide that now is the time to come into the pits. Not going forward yet, keyword being yet, but that pit entry super odd around this track as well. Got that really tight hairpin where in real life there's been some scenes of there being a little bit of a parking lot adding through there. My mind harkens back to a couple of years ago during, I believe it was either practice or qualifying for the IndyCar race around here when Kyle Kirkwood for Andretti Autosport gave the big old thumbs up to his competitor on pit entry because of a spin they had coming out the hairpin through there. The hairpin that our esteemed colleague, Mr. Charles Bichelle, always refers to as the Jones hairpin after Ed Jones crashed heading into that section in an Acura that they were driving around during an IndyCar race weekend here back in 2021. But that pit entry, super sketchy. That pit exit, sketchy as well, because if you carry a bit too much speed through there, you dip one wheel off the track and you're going to find yourself entering the track not the way that they probably had in mind, but entering the track on the racing line, which is just as terrifying for the driver who has that off-track excursion trying to exit the pits as it is for the driver who's going to rapidly approach on the scene of that and just see a car about 50 miles an hour too slow stopped on the apex.
You imagine that car coming out in this battle, this four-way fight here for that second place in the open category at the moment. Dustin Wells did well not to go into the back of Little at the final corner. Was very late on the brakes. He had a bit of a poor lap as Wells at the moment. He's now got the Acura of Potts right underneath that rear wing of the Porsche, but look at it come up the hill. It's absolutely demon power there through turn 6 and up the hill, and all of a sudden gets right back onto the Ford Mustang. And these four at the moment all fighting for second place. This is a lovely scrap between all four of them. Looks like they're coming up to a bit of traffic. That is the Ford Mustang of Kyle Shelton into the wall, and that is huge impact from behind of the Porsche. That is no, it's not Brandon Leonard. Sorry, that's the Acura that we just picked up. That is Kelly in the Porsche for Eternal Racing. That was a huge impact.
Yeah, Gene Kelly nowhere to go as that number 12 Mustang tries to get spun back around in the right direction, heading down that Rahal straightaway on the exit of turn number 6. I was just going to mention the gravel being brought on there as a result, but clearly the gravel not the only thing left behind as a result of this collision. Shelton already gone off the track. You can see that front bumper missing already, and multiple cars going off the track trying to respond to that collision. Tried to get spun around in the right direction, and things went wrong. Let's take a look at the initial incident for Shelton. Hang his way through turn number 6 right now. Still clean, but he's a little bit loose into the corner. Continues to slide. Hits that inside barrier. That front bumper popping off like a misshapen Lego. Tries to get spun around in the right direction. You can actually see going off the track is a Porsche, but even before that moment for Gene Kelly. But here's Shelton rejoining the track, and
that is a last-second call for Gene Kelly there to just go, do I go left, do I go right? He went left, and that's the same way the Ford Mustang was trying to stay out the way of Gene Kelly there. And as for the Mustang there, you just see coming up through turn 6, like we said, the blind entry onto that corner, carried way too much speed into that corner. Rear end went light, and around it came Dustin Wells then. Well, he was on the back of Little. I believe Little may have pitted. He's down in 7th place now, 58 seconds off of that provisional lead. Here is Tyler Reid. Currently sat in P4 in the category now, as Little has obviously made that pit stop. And then Farina at the moment, P6. What has happened to... Oh, Little was, sorry, the green Ford Mustang. No. What has happened to Little, actually? Where's the purple Ford Mustang gone? There he is.
He has come into the pits. He spent about 12 and a half seconds down in the pit stall, 56 seconds down pit lane for Jacob Little. So he's made that call to come into the pits in the number 74 car. Little bit of a diversion from the rest of the drivers around him as Chandler Baker and Nolan Uke making the call to pit as well. There's Uke in the number 22 BMW stopping in his pit stall right now. Ryan Silione, who I believe has already come into this race, come into the pits as well, albeit to repair some damage that he picked up earlier on. He's still out there on the racetrack. More drivers making the call to come into the pits, mainly Jean McLuhan in the 992 Porsche. That's him heading down that pit lane right now. Comes into the pits from, I believe, third in Pro GT3 and right towards the north end of the field overall.
Yeah, indeed. That's why I got confused. Farina hasn't been into the pit lane, and that's why Little is now behind him. Just looking at the timing screens, by the way. Gap up front, 0.8 of a second. All was 4 tenths quicker on the last lap of this race. Ken Copeland at the moment, not sure what's happened to Copeland here, but 4 tenths slower last time round. The gap's come down a little bit this time round. Are we thinking traffic may have played its part a little bit against Copeland over that of All in terms of where he's caught them on the racetrack? That's the difficult thing you've got to mention is while you're catching this set of traffic at the moment here, Ron, it depends where you catch them as to how quick you can lap them, because traffic will play its part.
Oh, traffic absolutely will play its part. I will raise 1 point in reference to Ken Copeland. His fifth lap of the race, at least in terms of how things have gone for him ever since the drop of the green flag, was set all the way back on lap 4 when he set a 121.5. Just going through the past couple of laps that he has set in that number 15 Ferrari, he's looking at 122.1, 122.2. Meanwhile, Corby All, not this last time by, but the time before then, actually set his best lap of the race at a 121.8. So as Corby All has proven himself to be a rather worthy adversary in that number 8 car, he's setting those quick lap times as Ken Copeland is starting to slow down. That's that nice little yin and yang effect. Just comparing the lap times that those two drivers set on that lap, there's about 0.5 of a second between those two in terms of pace. That's a huge difference.
That is a huge difference. There's a lot of dirt kicked up there, I've noticed. So someone's had a big off somewhere. Here is Jacob Little down in P7, but has done his pit stop. No one else has done their pit stop yet in this category. As we say that, in comes Louis Rios then in the Ben category from second place in this. Well, you just see how slow that pit entry is. As you just see there, look, the Porsche just dipped down. Very easy to lose. I say it is. It's obviously on a set of Corsa Competizione. It seems like the pit entry is a bit quicker than that one. I've seen a few lose it on the rear there. Here is Rui Farina then, currently sat P5 in that open class, but hasn't yet made his pit stop. Neither has the car behind him in P6. Little the leading car to have pitted out of that open category. Obviously Manning is the leader overall in that one. So it's going to be interesting to see when these guys pit. I'm surprised Copeland didn't pit last time around, Ron, because he's gaining on some traffic here. Surely getting into the pits, getting out the way of that traffic would have been beneficiary.
Yeah, that probably would be the smart call around a racetrack like this. Outside of the Andretti hairpin of turn number 2 and the corkscrew of turn 8, we can't really count that in terms of easy overtaking opportunities for these drivers. Usually, at least the way that I would see it in a race like this, you catch up to traffic and you decide, yep, there's a sign, I should come into the pits. So, not going for that. Little bit surprised that we haven't seen those drivers make that call to come into the pits. But hey, to each their own. Side-by-side racing we've got on screen right now involving Jonathan LeBay in the 147 Simtech racing car, getting that move done, heading down into turn number 1. That was himself and Billy Ole, the father of Corby, as we see going off the track. That is Kyle Shelton going off the circuit. That's going to cause him to pick up a penalty as a result. He's not the only driver with a black flag. Charles Bichelle and Nolan Uke both with black flags as well, and I gotta wonder if that is anything to do with some unsafe entry/exits.
Yeah, possibly so. Looks like Copeland's extended that gap a little bit over these last couple of laps. He's got a bit of a clear track in front of him. I'm surprised All hasn't tried to pull the trigger here and go for that undercut, as we have a driver coming into the pit lane. That is Tyler Manning in the pits. And your leader in the open category, and he's got a pretty comfortable race lead at the moment from Wells in that category, and he can really afford to come into the pits whenever he wants, to be fair, because he's in pretty much control of that open class. But All maybe try something different and go for that undercut. He's not yet. This is the Acura of Tanner Masters down the order. This is P3 in class and on the back of Baker for P2. So this is for second and third in the Ben category then, and the Acura gets a great run towards turn 5. There he comes. He's going to be on the outside, brakes a little earlier, looking for the up and under. Porsche gets it parked right on the apex, and this is a good little fight between these two.
And as we see this fight go on for P3 in the Ben GT3 category, there's actually P2 and P3. It involves the battle for P3 in the Ben GT3 categories. Yeah, occasionally it makes sense from time to time. I gotta wonder at this point, as we see Dustin Wells in the 4-wide motorsports car make that call to pit from P2 in open GT3, being joined by Potts as well, and staying out is going to be Leonard, who's going to snatch up P2 as a result of all of that. Now, we saw earlier on Brandon Leonard have an off-track moment. According to our live timing software, he spent 0.45 of a second down pit lane, so has not come into the pits for that stop. So that is not going to be P2 on the road, but still a pretty good drive from the driver of the number 7 car, from being a glorified lawnmower coming out of turn number 2 to running P2, albeit through a pit cycle that is still ongoing. With less than 15 minutes left to go in this race, I gotta wonder, though, as Ty Schuring makes that call to pit in the number 46 car, how exactly the two drivers in front of Schuring in Pro GT3 are going to decide when and where to pit. If you're Ken Copeland, are you going to try and play it safe, or are you going to maybe swing for the fences, knowing that Corby maybe has something up his sleeves as well? It's that game of chess being conducted at 150 miles an hour.
It is indeed, and Copeland at the minute has extended that gap up to 1.8 seconds now, so he's really got the pace. Just want to point out that Dustin Wells got the jump over Jacob Little in the pits, so the Porsche jumps ahead of the Ford Mustang then in the pits. Tyler Reid as well got Potts jumped in the pit lane, as that's Tanner Masters having a moment there with the Porsche of Baker as they come down through the corkscrew, and is that McDade, who's just got up into second place in category in the Ferrari there in the Ben category, because while the other two is having their own little dramas, Peter McDade here has now moved into second place in that Ben category. Then he's picked up on the other two drivers' mistakes.
Yeah, that's a little bit surprising considering how long he spent in his pit stall, 21.9 seconds. That is a pretty long time, but here we go. Colby Ohl in the Eternal Racing number 8 Audi stopped in his pit stall from P2 in Pro GT3. That's a quick stop from him, 12 seconds dead. That's nearly 2 seconds quicker than Jean McClure that we saw pit earlier on. That's going to help him out a lot. Let's see if Ken Copeland is going to decide next time by that he needs to shadow this call. That's a real question. The ball is very much so in Ken Copeland's court, and look at this for all. This is a dream scenario for Colby. He finds himself with not a lot to deal with, not a lot of traffic, not a lot of drama. He can just put his nose to the grindstone and set the quickest outlap that he possibly can. All eyes now are on the number 15 Wrong Stuff Ferrari of Ken Copeland, heading his way out of Rainy Curve into turn number 10, the real trouble spot, with gravel still being kicked up. It looks like, I think, a Jiffy Pop without the tinfoil on top. But here we go, Ken Copeland coming down pit lane from the lead of this race. He's going to have to do a quick stop if he wants to hold on to the race lead, but he does have a bit of a cushion in his back pocket. Certainly doesn't want to use it, though. Let's see how it works out for Copeland.
Let's see how it works out indeed. 12 seconds was the pit stop for Colby Ohl. We know that Copeland had about 2 seconds worth of a margin on that circuit, so he's now stationary in his box. Let's see how long he's going to be sat there for at the moment. Ticks by 5, 6, 7 seconds have already ticked by. This time will feel like an eternity. 9.37. You've got to now wonder, 1, has he fueled enough till the end of this race? But 2, what a blinder, because he's gained another 2.5 seconds over Colby Ohl.
Yeah, that is a super quick stuff from Ken Copeland. I wonder if he's been saving fuel throughout this race. Of course, we did mention the slowing of lap times for Ken Copeland that we noticed not terribly long ago. As this played into Ken Copeland's court, was it a little bit placebo that he was trying? Potentially, not entirely sure. Either way, though, Copeland, 9.3 seconds stopped in the pit stall. Clearly, the Red Bull doing wonders for the Wrong Stuff mechanics.
Yeah. Definitely is indeed. Well, we'll find out. Time will tell whether he's got enough fuel on board as we go down to Ty Shearing in that blue and red Ford Mustang. You can just see there going around the outside of the Corvette that he's putting a lap on. And this is down in P4 in category at the moment. Fighting for that podium with that Porsche there in front. And he'd love to come away with a podium, I'm sure, in this category tonight, because that'd be fantastic. Wells, Little and Reed, a lot of changing around in the open category at the moment. Wells now back in front, of Little and Reed at the moment. So a lot of exchanges for places there on the podium. A lot of podium fights starting to happen. And this is the bonus about a bit of a longer race. After that pit stop, all the gaps close back up. And this is where we have the fight as the Mustang heavily on the brakes in towards the corkscrew. And how he's not gone through the Porsche, I do not know.
Well, I gotta say, as much as the corkscrew is an iconic corner in the world of racing, doesn't strike me as a good place for a bowling alley. So very lucky that those two cars avoided contact. Schuring running a little bit wide, coming out of turn number 10. I'm shocked that you can still see the asphalt in that small little flat out blast between 10 and 11 with the amount of cars that have gone off the track and brought more gravel on there. We'll say, though, overall, Matthew, as we are officially in the final 10 minutes of this race, really the final 9 coming up to the final 8, been a really good race up to this point and a clean one for a lot of the drivers up and down this grid.
Yeah, and I think tonight has been a case of drivers have made their own errors in terms of losing positions or gaining positions. It's been their own errors that has cost them in this race. I think it's been an absolutely fantastic one, to say the least. I think it's been a classic, really. You know, pretty simple. Laguna Seca, let's not forget, is not the easiest track to overtake on. These corners are not forgiving, and they're not easy to get to overtake. You've got to be fully alongside and fully committed to completing the move, as we're looking at the Corvette in towards Andretti hairpin now, but the Acura just in front, staying ahead. So I think it's been a really good race at the minute. We've seen some real dominance from Copeland out front, Manning in the open category. But we've also seen, oh dear, both drivers there going very, very wide and off the road. That is I was going to say, we've seen some really good driving, and then we've also seen a bit of that where drivers have just made some silly errors. Yeah,
trying to intimidate each other by going off the track in sync through turn number 3, but Ryan Cilione getting that moved on Brandon Potts to slip his way up into the final overall top 10 spot. Cilione currently slotted in 5th of the Open GT3 drivers. That number 77 Corvette has been up and down the field a lot, the highest running Corvette as it stands currently in this race, getting the move done on the Acura of Potts in the number 25 car a couple of moments ago. As we saw that it just followed each other off the track. I was going to raise a brief little point, because we've talked a lot, obviously, about the pro battle. Saw battle in open a couple of moments ago. That may heat up yet again. Look at that, Cilione running a little bit wide and contact being made. Hang down into turn number 11. I thought we were just going to see Cilione end up in Nevada when everything is said and done, but he slowed it down into the corner and still hit the apex and actually got a good exit. I'm not sure how he did that in the number 77 car, but hey, Brandon Potts giving an assist to Cilione.
Just a little kiss as there goes Cilione. He's lost it at Andretti hairpin all on his own. The rears came round. Let's not forget, if I'm correct, the engine went on Cilione earlier, so he'd have repaired that damage in the pit lane, or something happened to that car. There was smoke pouring out that car early on in the race. As here is Leonard at the moment, down in towards Andretti hairpin. That is the Ool, I believe, in the Audi in front, so possibly putting a lap on him. 7th place in category. And let's not forget, we've got an amazing stacked calendar coming your way for the next couple of weeks of racing here at Operation Motorsport. The calendar just gets better and better. We come from the United States, we head to our homeland, we head to Brands Hatch, the British roller coaster as it's known, next time out. Watkins Glen, what a circuit. Road America, and then we end round 8 and 9, the CTMP and the VIR, which I have never heard of, so you'll have to tell me what they are.
That is Canadian Tire Motorsports Park up there in Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada, and Virginia International Raceway. So some pretty awesome tracks to bring this season to a close. I gotta say, it may not be my home. I think a track that's probably about, I don't know, 3,000 miles away from where I am. Brands Hatch is still a brilliant racetrack. Actually hosted some IndyCar races all the way back in the day in, God, I'm trying to remember the years. It was... I might have to get back. I think it was 1978 and 2003. I'll have to double check my my facts there. But I know 2003 was one of them, and both rather intriguing races. And interesting fun fact about that, in the same year that it was at that point the USAC IndyCar series, back when USAC still organized IndyCar racing. They visited Brands Hatch in the same year that they also went to Silverstone. Nobody really knows that that race happened. There's like no photos of it, but it did take place many, many moons ago. I'll have to double check my facts on this, but I know 2003 was one of them, and the second one was in the late 70s. So I'll get back to that on that one there, Matthew.
IndyCar at Brands Hatch. Interesting. Brands Hatch, another tricky circuit like Laguna Seca to get overtaking done. They call it the British roller coaster. You can kind of see why. Down in Kent in England, that's going to be our next destination. What a track it is. It's a lovely little circuit, is Brands Hatch. Hope to visit that one day. As we're on with Dustin Wells, who's currently second place. He's put a bit of a gap between himself and Jacob Little now in this second place category, in the open category, sorry. Jacob Little has got that of Tyler Reid, for company in the background. And Copeland now 4 seconds to all in that pro category as we're entering this final 4 minutes of this race. But some fantastic circuits coming up to end this championship. We're kind of at that midway point now. This is that fight between Reid and Little. Reid in the blue, white and red. And Little in that purple and black Ford Mustang just in front of him, trying to get on that final podium position in the open class category here. And what a race it's been here at Laguna Seca. Like we said, it's been more that driver errors than actual overtakes on the circuit, but you've got to be in it to win it. And these drivers have just had a few too many dramas, some of them out there today, that has cost them places, cost them podiums, maybe even cost them a race win. But for Tyler Reid, he's got he's got to put immense pressure on Little here as we enter the final 3.5 minutes.
Two Mustangs with the inverse numbers, one in the 74, the other in the 47, and this is going to be a good battle all the way to the end of this race. And just to fully confirm it, it was 1978 when IndyCar made their first appearance in the UK in, I believe, its entire history. Jean McClune trying to get a move done, heading down into turn number 5. That's himself, and I believe a lap down car, I think, unless I'm very much mistaken. That is the number 12 of Kyle Shelton, who we saw go off the track through this very section earlier on in the race, and it was Shelton and a Porsche coming to blows, albeit it was Gene Kelly instead of a Sean McClune in the Porsche San Diego 992 car. Still got some good battles to talk about in the final 2 minutes of this race. Luis Frias involved in one of them right now. That's himself and Tanner Masters in the number 72 car right in front of him. These two going to give us a good battle to talk about in the Ben GT3 category. And if Peter McDade runs into any sort of difficulties in the Ferrari a little bit farther up the road, he may be smelling like a rose too.
Yeah, maybe as well. There's a car just in the gravel. That might be this slow car there, the Corvette that's allowing the leaders through. It's just going to get in the Acura's way here is the Corvette, and that's really helped out the Ford Mustang there of Rios, I believe it is, who's on the back of trying to get ahead of Masters at the moment. So the Corvette just being a little bit of a nuisance at this moment in time. Well, I do believe this is actually for position on the circuit, so not necessarily in category but on the circuit. We've also got that fight between Little and Reid that is developing in that open category for the final podium position in open. Pretty much a stalemate, I say that. There is also the battle for the podium in pro. It's just under a second, so it's going to be interesting to keep our eyes on. But this is your race leader, Ken Copeland, who's going to come to the line and take the white flag here as we start the final lap at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, one more lap of racing action for Ken Copeland to grab his third checkered flag of this season. He has been brilliant to follow thus far. This will be his third win in a row if he can hang on to it. Meanwhile, looking at some side-by-side battling a little bit farther in the back, Richard Davenport running 6th at the present moment. That was Anthony Calvi and Kyle Shelton, the two lap-down cars that they're having a dispatch of, heading through the final few corners. That's some real tense stuff heading off through that section. Calvi, one lap down in the Open GT3 class as it stands, currently running in 9th, but it's a battle with himself and Calvi. It's a battle with Calvi and Shelton to talk about at the end of this race, along with a battle going on involving Roy Farina right in front of Potts. So that's a battle to talk about for 7th in the Open GT3 category. We'll note that your current leader in that class is Tyler Manning, and that will continue on the streak of having 4 different winners win only one race in the Open GT3 class, which will be a complete contrast to the beneficiary category where Ian Carney is on track for his 4th straight point in 4 races this season. But here's the driver going for his third, Ken Copeland, heading his way into the final corner of turn number 11 in this number 15 Wrong Stuff Ferrari, and onto that start-finish straightaway for the final time. It's the Texan Copeland going to be victorious here in California. There's his third checkered flag of the season. Ken Copeland wins it in the pro category at Laguna Seca. Gonna have to wait for that number 14 TMD Racing McLaren of Tyler Manning. He's hanging his way off through turn number 10, the challenging corner that's caught at many drivers in this race. He gets through there cleanly. Oh, he has one more corner left to go, and hey, he can do some celebratory donuts right now, considering the 32-second gap to himself and Little. Tyler Manning going to win at the end of this race in the open category, his first win of the season. Wells dropped down like a rock at the end of this race. Not sure what went down with him, as that's a spin coming out of the second to last corner. Not sure who that is, as Ian Carney in the 4-wide Motorsports number 54 car going to go onto that start finish straight away and win for the 4th time in 4 races here in the Ben GT3 category. Should also be noted that despite the fact he's not going to be grabbing the checkered flag, Greg Meismer wins it in the Pro Ben class. But as we see the smoke show from Copeland into turn number 1, another brilliant race from this Operation eMotorsports Racing League season, but Copeland for the 3rd time going to be victorious in Pro.
Yep, and I think the question was asked after Daytona, can anybody stop all? Copeland is that man at the moment. And to answer your question about Dustin Wells, I saw it pop up on the timing screen saying an off track, so I don't know if he's had a problem somewhere on that final lap of the race, but it cost him a podium to Jacob Little and Tyler Reid. But what a race for Ken Copeland, for Tyler Manning, and then for the beneficiary winner of Ian Carney, then, who all take race wins in fantastic style. Laguna Seca in the bag, 4 rounds done. We head across the pond to Brands Hatch next week, and what a fantastic place to celebrate the mid-stage of the season, as it's been an absolutely fantastic night's worth of racing, Ron. It really has been something special here at Laguna Seca. But I tell you what, if you're Corby, you'd have thought after winning Daytona, maybe the luck might be on your side, and the fact that you've took a dominant season the season before, can you do it again? Ken Copeland's turned up, and he has come for a fight.
Yeah, Ken Copeland, who only made his series debut at the 2nd race of this season at Indianapolis. He came into the season and he came in guns blazing. Ken Copeland going to grab his 3rd win in a row. The Texan, he was a 6-shooter here at Laguna Seca. He wins it in front of Colby in P2. Tyler Manning, your winner in the open category, going to round out your overall podium in 3rd. John McClune in the Porsche San Diego 992 car ends up your 3rd place finisher in the Pro GT3 category, 4th overall at the end of this race. Credit where credit's due to Ian Carney for another wonderful drive in that 4-wide Motorsports car. That's his 4th win of this season in just 4 races. Carney, that number 54 car, seeming to be an indomitable force in that beneficiary class. Jacob Little going to finish right behind in 6th. Tyler Reid ends up in P7. Dustin Wells will finish in 8th. Ty Schuring will be classed in 9th, and Peter McDade going to round out your overall top 10.
P11 then for Tanner Masters, all by the way, from 10th down overall, a lap down. That's how good Ken Copeland was. Tanner Masters P11 with Louis Rios P12. Gene Kelly was 13th place, even after that big moment coming up through the rails straight. Brandon Leonard was P14 with Rui Farina P15. Brandon Potts 16th place. Chandler Baker 17th. Richard Davenport in P18. Kyle Shelton and Ryan Silone rounding out the top 20.
Then looking through the drivers that we have finishing outside of the top 20, it starts with Nolan Yuke, who finishes in 21st. John Hicks, class right behind in the 308 Operation Motorsports car in 22nd. Jonathan LeBay, who had a really topsy-turvy race here at Laguna Seca, ends up in 23rd. In front of Anthony Calvi in the 4-wide Motorsports Mercedes, the number 20, finishing in 24th. It's our Apex Racing TV colleague, Mr. Charles Bushell, in his season debut for Olympus Esports, going to be classed in 25th at the end of this race. Raymond Hanneman going to be classed in 26th. Billy All ends up in 27th. Christopher Pugliese ends up in 28th. Greg Meismer wins it in the Pro Ben category, albeit had no challenge on his hands and just parked it at a certain stage. Lots of the drivers a little bit farther in the back were struck by falling anvils between the start and the finish. The list goes on to include Tyler Beeman, classed in 30th, and a lot of the other drivers who ran into some difficulties early on. So that's how the results look like at the end of this race. race. But Matthew, we got some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area. I'll let you take first dibs on who you want to have a chat with first.
I think we're going to bring Ken Copeland into the chat because I think at the end of the day, let's speak with our overall race winner. And Ken, what a race it was for yourself. But one thing we need to ask you there, was you fuel saving in that race? Because the mid stage of the race, it looked like you'd lost a bit of pace and that Corby was gaining on you.
Yeah, there's a little bit of fuel saving going on, I think, on both ends. I'm not the most comfortable person in the world at Laguna Seca in any car, although the Ferrari tonight did amazing. I think Colby was kind of in the same scenario, so once I kind of got about a 1 to 2 second buffer, I just tried to lift, coast a little bit, take nice, easy, planted route through the corner and keep it safe, because I think that's where you lose most of your time at Laguna, is getting those off tracks and dipping tires.
100%. It was interesting to see Colby will get onto the back of you just within that second. I think was the closest he got all race. But the pit stop absolutely nailed it. 2.5 seconds gained, and you didn't really look back after there, did you?
No, not at all. Like, once the pit stop was done, it felt good. Got the execution down, which is something just practice every single time. Doesn't matter what league you're in. Officials, practice. Anytime you can nail a pit stop, it's going to benefit you in the long run. But yeah, the rest of the race was just kind of smooth sailing, making sure I gave people room to do their race, obviously catching up to some of the traffic. But otherwise, Colby had pretty good pace. It was a good race otherwise.
Good race otherwise. It's 3 in a row from yourself. You head to Brands Hatch in a week's time. What's your feelings about Brands Hatch? Can you make it 4 in a row?
I'm going to try. I really enjoy Brands, but I will admit, similar to Laguna, I don't run it very often. It's not something that you see on the IMSA rotation. It doesn't end up on the GT4 rotation very often, which is where I spend a lot of my time. So looking forward to revisiting and seeing if I can master that place.
And finally, anybody you'd like to thank tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two main ones obviously are going to be Apex Racing TV. Thank you so much for the broadcast. You do an amazing job week in and week out. I know I say it every week, but across a number of different leagues, y'all have always been amazing. Doesn't matter which broadcasters you get, the producers are always on point. So thank you so much for what you do. And then obviously Operation Motorsport, both IRL as well as the esports stuff that they do within the league. Great organization. They do a lot of really good work for a lot of really good people. Check them out. If you got some extra cash, feel free to donate it. Support that org. They do great work.
Ken Copeland, race winner in the pro category and overall tonight. Congratulations. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Ron, I'll let you grab somebody in for a chat.
I think the driver that I'm going to bring in is Ian Carney, going 4 for 4 in the early stages of this season. Welcome back into the booth, Ian. I think we need to start calling you the janitor because you are cleaning up thus for your 4th win in 4 races. Talk us through it here at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, I appreciate the compliments. I've been working hard trying to beat these guys. It's everybody. I was just talking with Pete, and he's like, "Oh, you need to slow down. We're just trying to have fun." I said, "Well, this is my fun." Beating everybody, or trying to at least. I don't know that I will every time, but you know, I'm gonna give it my best shot. I'm having a good day today for sure, and I finally set up my Ethernet, so hopefully I wasn't blinking like crazy again. But just out there keeping it clean, avoiding wrecks, and you know, just zigging when I'm zigging when I should zig and zagging when I should zag. So, yep.
I gotta say, Ian, on the subject of coming out and having fun, and by your definition of fun, it's just putting indomitable forces in indomitable performances in throughout this season. It reminds me of whenever I was a kid going to an indoor go-kart track around me here in the city of Philadelphia and telling my dad, hey, I'm not going out there for a good lap time. I just want to pass people. So it's been a very good season for you up to this point. Yeah, I was a cocky kid. And
That's all right.
We're gonna be heading off to Brands Hatch in 1 week's time. Bit of a departure from the old school American road courses that we visited thus far this season. But based off the pace you've shown thus far, I'm sure you're probably confident heading off to the UK.
Oh, well, you'd think so, but I'm shaking in my boots at that track. I know that that's just a lot of, from what I can remember, the 5 laps I think I've done on it my entire life, which is really shocking, I know, but it's a lot of high-speed turns, and I used to race Forza a lot back in the day, and that used to be the drift track because it had a lot of long, sweeping turns, but anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna put in my all. I'm gonna give everybody the best shot I can and race clean, and hopefully they let the fuel sit at 55 liters again. Compared to last week, everybody was running 45. I think I caught some people for that reason. Like typically I think I would be around like 10th or so, but because I was able to gather more fuel this time, and I don't think anybody caught on to it, I was able to climb up the charts a bit.
Well, it still worked out very well for you regardless here at Laguna Seca with your 4th win in 4 races. And Brands Hatch, certainly going to be a good ride. I like the mention of Forza Motorsports. I remember as a kid playing Forza Motorsports 4 and my mother begging me to go upstairs and actually bathe myself from time to time instead of just playing on my Xbox 360 all the time. But nevertheless, Ian, thank you so much for joining us here in the commentary booth. But before we let you go and celebrate, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, definitely want to again thank you guys for the broadcast. It's so fun each time I go back and rewatch it. I want to thank Operation Motorsports for giving me the identity, the purpose, the team camaraderie that I have here is amazing. Trophy AI, CrowdStrike, Michelin, everybody that's helped put this thing together has really a big weight on their shoulders, and I hope that the joy that we can get out here racing gives them that satisfaction for doing what they do. And I think I'm looking forward to it next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a good race there in the UK in 1 week's time, and excited to see you back out on the track. Ian, thank you so much for joining us in the commentary booth, and congratulations.
Thanks.
And that right there was Ian Carney, your winner in the Beneficiary GT3 category yet again this season. But Matthew, who do you want to have a chat with next?
I'm going to bring in Tanner Masters. I'm a bit of a Honda and a Cora fan, so I'd like to speak with this man, driving one of my favourite cars, the NSX. Tanner, P3 today on the night. It was a good result for yourself, but not that win. What do you have to do to beat Ian Carney this season?
Oh, yeah. Well, so I didn't get to see Ian on track, and that always bums me out because he was kind of far away, but I think I should get practice in. I had to take 2 weeks off of work, or 2 weeks off for work, and then we just, every day something new came up, and I couldn't get in the car. In fact, the first time I put the car on track was qualifying today, and I didn't even have the setup from, I got maybe 20 minutes of practice in, didn't have the setup saved, so I was a little nervous, and we threw the Zolder setup and just, prayed real hard.
How did it go for you out there then with the obviously lack of setup, lack of practice? That's always a key thing to get right going into a race night. So with that lack of preparation, P3, you've really got to be pleased with it.
Oh, I'm more than excited. I couldn't put a finger on where I was on field, because in the grid I started off in 26, and I just kind of, I was like, we're in the back, so let's go play, let's have a lot of fun, and let's get a bit aggressive and see where we can end up. So to end up in P3 at the end of it all was a very, very happy surprise.
We head across the pond next week to Brands Hatch. The Acura there should be pretty decent, I'd imagine. But what can you do? Because obviously P3 at the moment, without a bit of practice, race win with a bit of practice maybe?
That's what I'm hoping. If not, definitely a battle for the podium with a little bit of it. So the goal is, luckily for me, I work the weekend this week, so that'll give me the rest of this week and Monday night to really hone the car in and get something workable. So,
what do you think to Brands Hatch as a track? Obviously, we had as the only sort of foreign circuit this season, mainly American tracks for this season. What do we think about it?
Oh, I love Brands Hatch. Absolutely love it. I love the fact that it's to me it's very flowy, but it's so hard to make a pass, and so when you do make those passes at Brands, I feel like it is just, oh man, you're over the moon. You get that nice little fuzzy feeling all over the body, and you make one, you didn't send anybody off, and I love it. I really do. So.
Well, Tanner, congratulations, P3 tonight. We can't wait to see what you can do next week. But finally, anybody you'd like to thank?
Honestly, yeah, Chandler and Pete. Man, the battles we had today. I love when drivers get their elbows out, and to watch guys respectfully get pushy and get defensive and want to fight for that next position. That's all I could ever ask for. That's what I'm here for. And I mean, obviously here for everything else, but when it comes to being on the track and in the car, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to have a blast, and those guys made that happen tonight. So thanks to them.
Well, Tanner, congratulations. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
And Ron, I believe we've got one more driver left for a quick chat with. I'll let you take that one away.
That we do. Peter McDade now joining us in the commentary booth. Peter, welcome into the booth. And how about you talk us through what looked like a real slow burner but still hectic race at Laguna Seca?
Yeah, so my plan this race was to get in early and just roll through the laps as much as I could and wait for people to drop off because I'm not very good battling. And so my setup is faster towards the end when the tires warm up. So my strategy was to stay heavy, stay slow, pit early, run through it so I don't have to battle many people and just burn through the laps as I can as my setup got faster and faster and develop the race.
Yeah, just tackling this race as best as you possibly can and certainly practice making a heck of a lot of difference in these GT3 races.
Definitely.
Going to be heading to a much different track in the form of Brands Hatch in 1 week's time. Compare that to this one. I don't think there's any sort of overlap outside there being blacktop around the track, a pit lane, and some braking markers.
Yeah, there's no difference whatsoever. It's definitely going to be an entirely different strategy for a lot of the drivers on track, and I think some of our junior drivers are going to need some of the practice that this week is going to afford them to really take advantage of the track.
And that's going to be a real good race to look forward to in 1 week's time. I'm certainly looking forward to it, and hopefully the drivers up and down the grid, including yourself, are going to be looking forward to it as well. But Peter, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. And before we let you go, is there anyone you would like to give a thanks to or shout out?
Well, Ron, as always, I'd love to thank our component sponsors. We have Apex Racing. Thank you guys so much for hosting us. Operation Motorsport, as you guys know, we talk about it all race. We got Troph.ai. And on top of that, can't forget my sponsor, Simicube. Thank you guys so much, and thank you so much for providing equipment to our veterans.
There we go, man. Always got to shout out the sponsors at the end of the day there.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us in the commentary booth. Well done on the P2 result. I'm excited to see you back out on the track for the rest of the season.
See you there. See you at Brands Hatch.
And Brands Hatch being the next race of this season is one that I'm sure you're looking forward to, Matthew, being the Brit out of us two on the air, but that's got to be a good one. Another fantastic track from this season.
Yeah, what a track we head to next time out. It's going to be fantastic to go to one of my home circuits at Brands Hatch and to see what these drivers can do. 4 epic races we've had in 4 great weeks so far, but it heads to week 5. Brands Hatch is our next destination, and Ron, really looking forward to that one. It is going to provide us some fantastic drama. I'm absolutely certain of this one because it will be absolutely crucial. A small pit lane as well at Brands Hatch. That's going to be a key thing to notice, as well as an interesting pit entry and corners that are just absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to get going next week. I'm sure you can't as well. And already, let's get going because it's going to be a brilliant one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We got to pack up our equipment and ship it over to the UK for that race. But between then and now, in 1 week's time, we got a lot of action here on Apex Racing TV, including the action for the Apex Racing League GT3 trophy just coming up in 2 days' time here on Apex Racing TV. So you should probably hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But as for this broadcast of the Operation eMotorsports Racing League round number 4 of this season, that will just about do it. And so for myself, Ron Mullins, Matthew Duffin joining me in the commentary booth, and Lee Thompson doing a wonderful job working on the cameras in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your night, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.